I want to thank, first of all, the organisers for what is a tremendous turnout tonight in Leith in Edinburgh. And I also have a confession to make. I'm not originally Scottish. I was born and brought up in Liverpool. And both me and Nicola were actually at university together back in 1986 and through the 80s. And while she was a nationalist, for when she started at university, I was a born and bred unionist and often found myself on the opposing side. And if anybody told me back in 1986 or 1987 that I would be sharing the platform with Nicola Sturgeon and with Margot fighting for Scottish independence, I would have told them they were absolutely bonkers. And the fact is that I spent most of my adult life believing in the union, but now, and it's a gradual process over the last few years, I no longer believe that we should be ruled by Westminster. Of course, no politician really knows what the future holds for any of us, but anything has to be better than the decades of austerity that we've been told to expect by Labour and the Tories. Why should the people of Scotland have to dread the result of a general election every 5 years? We have only one Tory MP in Scotland. We never voted for them in over 30 years, but once again we have to put up with a Prime Minister who wraps himself in the language of Margaret Thatcher, patronises us with 54 seconds of his 49-minute speech and urges us to vote no to save the United Kingdom. He patronises the First Minister of Scotland by calling him his pen pal. Could you imagine the uproar there would have been if the First Minister had called the Prime Minister his pen pal? Remember the uproar when Alex Salmond, along with the rest of Scotland, was waving the saltire when Andy Murray won Wimbledon. But yesterday, we had the Prime Minister of this country call the First Minister of Scotland his pen pal. That is the patronising attitude that again and again we are subjected to by the Prime Ministers, by the people elected in Westminster. And yesterday, David Cameron claimed he wants to build a land of opportunity for all. He wants to build an American-style economy. But you cannot build a land of opportunity for all on the ruins of 1 more million children living in poverty. When he boasts that the land of hope is Tory, what we have to remember is that this land, which has mortgaged our children's future to the bankers, that is what this government has done and what the government before done. They have mortgaged our children's future. And Bitter Together, rather than Better Together, actually only have one message: more cuts, more weapons, more misery. And I no longer want my children's future to be dictated by a coalition of hypocrites, by a coalition of liars and warmongers, by Labour Party, by the Tory Party. By the Labour Party, by the Tories and the mini-me Tories, who are married to each other, for better or worse. They are willing to hand £1.4 trillion to the bankers, but they now tell us that we've got to pay. We've got to pay through closed hospitals, through slashed living standards, of future unemployment, or working until we die. And it was very touching to hear the Prime Minister yesterday to say that he stands by our soldiers who are returning from Afghanistan. He stands by them so much, by paying them so little, that their families are means tested, that they live in houses that you wouldn't put dogs in. He sends them ill-clad, ill-equipped, without armour, on a pack of lies into war after war. And as for the general election, every general election, the bookies in this country speculate on who will win. But in Scotland, it is always clear who the losers will be. It'll be the pensioners, the sick, the poor, the unemployed. And Cameron, I'll give this one thing to him. He did actually tell the truth yesterday when he said this is a land of opportunity. This is a land of opportunity for a very select group of people, the super rich, who are not just surviving, but actually enjoying a massive increase in their wealth. An average of 30% to a total of £336 billion, the biggest increase in over 22 years. Yet the Tories propose to slash benefits for people who failed to get jobs. And Labour, of course, has a similar plan, just at a slower pace. What is it that Cameron actually said yesterday when he talks about the land of opportunity? What he said was, we will build a land of opportunity in our country today. Now, I know it'll be tough. Some people say it can't be done, but the Conservatives say, what's to stop us? Remember those words of David Cameron. What's to stop us? That's the scary part when he says, what's to stop us? Do we actually believe that the Labour Party, led by Ed Miliband, by Ed Balls and by that cabinet, the shadow cabinet, can actually stop the Tory party? Or are they different? Or are they just a paler blue version of austerity? And I've seen this stuff in the Daily Mail for the last few days, and I think Ed Miliband quite rightly has attacked the Daily Mail for its rancid, hate-filled abuse of his father. But why not the rest of the time? After all, the Daily Mail doesn't just hate Ed Miliband's father, it hates the gay community, it hates teenagers, it hates the poor, it hates Scots, it hates women, it hates asylum seekers, it hates Muslims, it hates immigrants, and the list just goes on and on. Ed Miliband attacked them for the abuse of the weak and the vulnerable every single day that he has been the leader of the Labour Party. And as for his mentor, Gordon Brown, that secret weapon of bitter together that's been rolled out, the beast of politics, he warned us that voting for independence to get rid of the Tories would be a huge mistake. But after 300 years of the Union, we have 6 out of 10 of the most deprived areas in the United Kingdom, where some 51% of our children live in poverty, where life expectancy for males in part of Scotland is the worst in Western Europe, and where the life expectancy is 14 years behind that of England, of 79.5. How did that come to pass? How did that come to pass where Gordon Brown was Chancellor for so many years and then Prime Minister? Gordon claims, of course, that a vote for independence would put at risk 100 years of Labour achievement. But as Chancellor, he actually argued it was necessary to break from 100 years of Labour history to turn UK, the United Kingdom, into a paradise for big business and the super rich. He out-Thatchered Thatcher by refusing to slash bankers' bonuses. He slashed living standards for millions, and then in partnership with Tony Blair, he drove through New Labour's inhumane economic policy. That is the secret weapon of bitter together that's turning out to convince us to vote for the Union. They bred ignorance, they bred despair, and they bred fear, which gave Scotland Tory rule once again. And now we have Ed Miliband who wants another chance. Another chance to do the same, or another chance to do a paler blue version of austerity. And I cannot believe the hypocrisy of some of those in Labour who have spent their lifetime supporting self-determination for every other country around this planet, apart from the people of Scotland. Question if staying part of the United Kingdom really will protect the National Health Service, whether it will protect our services, whether it will protect our pensions, whether it will protect our young people. And the SNP actually faced ridicule on whether an independent Scotland would retain automatic membership of the European Union. But if the Little Englander Tories and UK actually have their way, the UK might exit the European Union in 2 years. And millions of people in this country actually are desperate for change. They want to hear the arguments for and against independence, which is why meetings like this are important. I think a huge number in this country, put aside the opinion polls, I actually believe that a huge number of people in this country are unconvinced either way. But they need convincing and they need to hear the arguments. And I do want to see passion within this debate. I do want to see the arguments open up. It's not a question of having to pinpoint facts and figures and say in 5 years' time this is what will happen in Scotland. In 10 years' time this is what will happen in Scotland. Because neither David Cameron, neither Ed Miliband, nor Ed Balls can actually pinpoint what will happen in the United Kingdom in 5 or 10 years' time. But I do know this. I want to live in a nuclear-free Scotland. I want a Scotland that stands for human rights around the world. I want a Scotland that rails against Guantanamos and against illegal wars. And I want a justice system that is worthy of a civilised society. I want to live in a country which is measured by each other's happiness and not by each other's misery. And a country that will actually give the men and women of this country the chance to work, that will give our young people and give my children a future in security. And David Cameron actually spelled out exactly what better together means with his attacks on the poorest in our society. If David Cameron gets his way, the UK that is celebrated by Ed Miliband, by Alistair Darling, by Joanne Lamont, by Anas Sarwar will soon cease to exist. Benefits, social security, the welfare state are top of the list for reserved powers in the Scotland Act of 1998. No amount of tinkering with devolution will alter that. His speech, Cameron's speech, was a description of Britain that we will get even if we don't vote Tory. If you are moved by Alistair Darling's words for the Union, these were his words: positive case that celebrates not just what makes us distinctive, but also celebrates what we share. we can be sure of one thing, Alistair Darling, that as voters we will have no say in whether we do away with the NHS, whether we do away with the Royal Mail, whether we do away with the welfare state, because even if we get rid of the one Tory MP in Scotland, nothing will alter the fact that Westminster will decide what happens to us in Scotland. From welfare to warfare, from economy to employment, we have no right to decide. And of course, I agree with what's been said. Independence is a risk for Scotland. I don't shy away from that. I don't think any of the speakers tonight will shy away from that. Of course it's a risk for Scotland, but it's not half as risky as a future within the United Kingdom. I want to say one thing before I conclude. 2014 is not about voting for Alex Salmond, and it's not about voting for the SNP or voting for Nicola Sturgeon. That's not what 2014 is about. And as for the slogan, better together, if the union has been such a blessing for Scotland, why do the unionists maintain that we are still too weak to stand on our own 2 feet? We've been waiting for 3 centuries for that answer. And as for crystal balls, where exactly are the plans of Alistair Darling? He suggests devolution will be improved if independence is rejected, but he fails to say how he will do it. He fails to say when they will do it. Better together, better out of it, whatever the hell they want to call their slogans, whatever the hell they want to call themselves. In 2014, our vote will not be to get rid of the monarchy. I wish they did. I wish we did. But in 2014, our vote will not be to get rid of Stirling or to make Trident disappear overnight from the Clyde. A yes vote will only mean that such things could be decided by the people of Scotland and become a possibility. For Alistair Darling, it's not for Gordon Brown, it's not for David Cameron and the rest of them to dictate to Nicola Sturgeon or to Alex Salmond or to Margot or to Chaz or to anybody else in this campaign for independence to say what will definitely happen after independence. Nor can Joanne Lamont tell us that a yes vote will mean this or that, unless of course she's guaranteeing that Scotland will be punished by Westminster, but it can't be punished any more than it already has been in the last 300 years. On this platform, of course, we have different visions. If we vote yes next September, there is one cast iron guarantee I can give you this. The people who live in Scotland will finally make the decisions that affect Scotland for the rest of their lives. Westminster will no longer have the right to dictate what we should think, what we should create, what we should produce. We will no longer be told we cannot govern ourselves from warfare to welfare, from employment to foreign policy, from cradle to grave. We will have the right to decide our destiny. I'm not a politician. I'm not in a political party, and there is nothing more that I care about than my children. Nothing more. And that is one of the fundamental reasons why I've decided to vote for independence, why over the last few years I decided that this is what I want for my children, this is the future I want. Because I believe that the future of an independent Scotland must be a means for a bigger dream. It must mean the ending of poverty. It must mean the ending of ignorance and inequality of opportunity. But even to have a chance of turning that dream into reality, we actually need independence. And if we do that in the next 11 months, if we work night and day, and if we turn these meetings of 200 into 1,000, into 2,000, into 20,000, and if we turn that independence march next September into a march of 100,000 or more, we will make a difference not just to my children, but to every single future generation that comes next. Thank you.